Elon Musk reveals dream of growing old with a black homeless woman as a millionaire emerges. The city lights flickered like distant stars swallowed by the smog. The skyline, sharp and cold, stretched into the night. Glass towers glowing with the wealth of a few, while shadows curled between alleyways, hiding the pain of thousands. News broke out like an electric shock. Elon Musk, the tech mogul, had dropped the most bizarre confession yet on live broadcast. I want to grow old alongside a black homeless woman. The words echoed through every screen, every phone, twisting disbelief into fascination. People whispered, jaws tight, eyes wide. Why? What had brought this titan to say such a thing? But the real shock wasn't Musk. It was Ethan Morris, the man behind the newest headline. A millionaire, unlike any other, successful, ruthless, untouchable. Yet in his world of deep pockets and deeper loneliness, a fracture was growing. A question haunting every midnight. What's the point of all this power if your soul feels hollow? Ethan's routine visit to his own philanthropic foundation didn't promise fireworks. Just another day in glass-walled luxury built to showcase his generosity. But then, there she was, Amina. She didn't just stand out, she vibrated in a silent electric hum. A homeless woman with eyes like storm clouds. Wise beyond time, calm amid chaos. Rumor had it she carried secrets no one dared speak of. When Ethan first saw her, sunlight barely catching the strands of her tangled hair, his breath hitched, tight in his chest. The usual sharp edge of business negotiations, dulled by something raw and real. Her voice cracked through the hum of indifferent wealth. Power's empty, without purpose, she said, and the words tripped him like a punch to the gut. Around them, the city roared. People passed, eyes flickering with confusion and messes of judgment. Why is he talking to a beggar? Doesn't he have better things to do? But Ethan couldn't turn away. Something about Amina unsettled the cold metal in his heart. They started meeting. Small, stolen moments between glass doors and sidewalks. She spoke of healers from forgotten lineages, of powers stitched into bloodlines that could tear at the core of greed itself. Ethan listened, the weight of her secrets dragging at his conscience. There was a spark, dangerous, fierce. But the others saw it too. Jonathan Hale, a name whispered in smoky rooms and dark boardrooms. A ruthless millionaire, sharp as broken glass, eyes always hungry for the next prize. For Hale, Amina wasn't a person. She was a prize to be owned, a tool to bend the world's power games. And Ethan feared what would happen if she slipped into his grasp. The city held its breath. The air throbbed with tension between hope and danger, love and ambition, truth and lies. Ethan's hands trembled. Could he save Amina and himself from the collision course they were on? Or would the darkness lurking behind her past swallow them whole? The question burned like fire on his skin. What secret did Amina carry, so potent it could unravel everything Ethan believed in? And who would pay the price when the truth came out? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The question burned like fire on his skin. Ethan felt the weight of uncertainty crush him. Amina's presence was both a balm and a storm. He needed to protect her, but the very act of drawing close felt like stepping into a dark room where he couldn't see the walls. Every meeting drew him deeper into her world, a world where the shadows whispered and laughter danced in the air like smoke. He loved those raw moments, but the fear of Jonathan Hale. The back alley was their meeting spot, dimly lit by a flickering street lamp. Amina sat cross-legged on the cold pavement, her dainty fingers weaving through old, frayed tarot cards. She had offered to read them for him, but it felt too intimate, too revealing. Yet, every time he met her, a hunger for truth curled in his stomach. "Amina," he ventured, his voice shaky, "what secrets do you hold?" She paused, eyes narrowing, lost in thought. "Some truths are buried deep. Would you be ready to pay the price?" He swallowed, heart racing. Suddenly the world felt smaller, the alley tighter. Just then, a commotion erupted down the street. A group of men stumbled out of a bar, laughter blending with the night. One of them stepped forward, tall, menacing, Jonathan Hale. Ethan's heart sank. This was not a chance encounter. Hale's eyes locked onto Amina, like a hawk spotting its prey. "Well, well, what's this?" Hale sneered, a smirk tugging at his lips. "I see you found yourself a little distraction." Amina didn't flinch. She continued shuffling her cards, unfazed by the escalating threat, while Ethan's insides twisted with panic. "Get away from her, Hale!" Ethan's voice barely escaped him, a whisper cloaked in dread. "Oh, Ethan!" Hale chuckled darkly. "You really think you can protect her? Look at her! The city is riddled with dogs like her. Disposable, nothing but a ghost in your charity scheme." Something inside Ethan snapped. He stepped forward, his fists clenched. "She's more than that! You don't understand!" But Hale wasn't listening. In an instant, he lunged forward, knocking the cards from Amina's hands, sending them scattering like autumn leaves. The sound of their falling echoed through the night, a spell broken. "Stop!" Ethan shouted, rushing to Amina's side, but Hale stood between them, eyes ablaze. "You think you're special? You think she's yours?" Ethan's breath hitched. The uneasy chill of hesitation passed between them, caught in the air. And then, just like that, Amina stood up, her demeanor shifting. She wasn't the calm woman Ethan thought he knew. Her voice came out firm, powerful. "You don't know anything, Jonathan!" Shock washed over Hale's face, momentarily breaking his bravado. "What do you mean?" In a single breath, Amina reached into her tattered coat and pulled out a glimmering object, a pendant hanging on an ancient chain. The air thickened with tension. Ethan felt his blood run cold. "This belonged to my mother," she revealed, weighing the pendant in her palm. A lineage of power you can't even begin to comprehend. The surrounding city fell silent, as if the world had stopped. Jonathan's eyes widened, disbelief spilling into rage. "You're lying!" But Amina stepped closer, voice steady, eyes aflame with fierce resolve. "No, Jonathan, you've underestimated me. I'm not just a beggar. You know nothing about the game at play." Ethan's heart raced. What did she mean? Who was she really? The truth hung heavy, foreboding. Hale recoiled, anger spiraling out of control. "You won't get away with this," he spat, eyes shifting between the two of them. Ethan felt the darkness around him shift, the air crackling with danger. Then, without warning, the sound of a gunshot rang out, a deafening blast that shattered the silence, leaving everything hanging in the air, suspended in disbelief. The chaos exploded. Ethan's heart stopped, everything blurred and twisted. He turned, eyes wild, searching for Amina. Their world had tilted, and nothing seemed safe anymore. What if she wasn't just Amina? What if every secret they carried could break them both? He could feel the darkness creeping in, shadows swallowing the light. What was the cost of truth? And who would pay it? Ethan's heart raced. Amina stood there, her wild hair dancing with the night breeze, her eyes deep with untold stories. The tension crackled around them. He could feel the weight of her gaze, the urgency of unspoken words that shook the very foundation of his soul. "What is it?" he finally asked, his voice trembling. "What do you know?" Her lips pressed together, a tight line of uncertainty, and then she took a breath that seemed to draw in the night. "Some things should stay buried," she whispered, but the fire in her eyes. The sound grew louder, a chorus of panic swelling as people began running. Ethan turned abruptly, tension flaring like an electric jolt. The sight that unfolded before him was chaos. The glow of city lights flashing and swirling, mingling with shadows that moved like living things. Then it happened. A loud bang echoed as glass shattered nearby. The crowd gasped in unison, a freeze-frame moment of horror. A man, hooded and wild-eyed, stood in the middle of the street holding a gun, his hand shaking yet deadly. "Get down!" he screamed, face twisted in anger. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Amina and pulled her close, heart pounding like a drum. The city's heartbeat felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by the sudden chaos. He could hear the panic around him, screams, gasps, and the staccato of hurried footsteps. "Stay close," he urged, feeling the tremor in his voice. They slipped into a nearby alley, shadows swallowing them whole as they ducked behind a dumpster. The air was thick with the scent of garbage and fear. Amina's breathing was sharp, quick, matching the frantic rhythm of his own heartbeat. "Ethan," she whispered, eyes wide, darting toward the drama unfolding. "You don't understand what's at stake. It's bigger than us." But before she could tell him more, chaos erupted anew. Police sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. A siren song of urgency. The man with the gun shouted something about power and betrayal, rage spilling from his lips like fire. From their hiding place, Ethan could feel the heat of danger creeping closer. Then, As if in slow motion, the gunman turned, pointing his weapon toward a figure on the street. A figure dressed in an expensive suit, moving like a predator through the chaos. The face was unmistakable. Jonathan Hale. The man's weapon was pointed firmly at him. Ethan's breath snagged in his throat. He felt time slow as he processed the scene in front of him. "Ethan!" Amina's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp and filled with fear. "You need to help him!" "What?" Ethan's mind reeled. "Are you crazy? That's Hale, the one who sees you as a prize." "Exactly, but you don't get it. He's more than he seems." Amina gripped his arm. Desperation flickered in her eyes like a dying light. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted in Ethan's understanding. Amina was not just a homeless woman. She was a key, a thread that could unravel the life he thought he knew. But what key? What truth did she hold about Hale? About herself? Suddenly, a loud bang marked the air, piercing through the chaos. Ethan's heart stopped. Everybody was racing, but he was rooted in place. Then it hit him. A shadow in the alleyway stirred, moving close. He turned, frozen in disbelief, as he recognized the figure emerging. The woman was dressed in a tailored suit, just as he remembered from his meetings. She stepped into the light, revealing a face that sent shockwaves through him. This was not just any woman. It was his mother. "Ethan, you need to listen," she called, urgency flooding her voice. "There's so much you don't know." Shock split through his core like an ice shard. His past collided with his present in a whirlwind, and for a moment, everything he understood began to fracture. Who was she really, and what was she doing here? "Mom?" Ethan choked out, heart racing as confusion swirled violently in his mind. Amina's grip tightened on his arm. Despair mingled with an apple-sweet fear. He stood between two worlds, one filled with danger and the other with answers he never expected. The question loomed in the air, heavy and relentless. What secret hid behind the faces standing before him? And would he uncover it in time to save them, or would everything he held dear slip through his fingers like sand? Ethan stood there, his heart pounding, torn between worlds, one of chaos and one of revelation. His mother's presence sent shockwaves through his mind, and the gunman remained a frayed thread, ready to unravel everything. "What are you doing here?" he managed to ask, his voice shaky. "Ethan, it's not what you think," she rushed, stepping closer, urgency flickering in her eyes. "You have to trust me. There's more to Amina, more than any of us know." "What do you mean, Mom?" Amina's presence knotted his stomach, and he couldn't look away from her. A shifting power hummed in the air, a pulse of mystery so thick he could almost taste it. Suddenly, the world around them exploded with movement. The gunman roared in frustration, trembling with emotion. "Someone's controlling you! You're all puppets! I'll set this right!" Ethan's breath caught. He felt the weight of uncertainty suffocating him. Hale was already moving, eyes wild with intent. "This isn't your business," he shouted, his voice slicing through the tension like a knife. Then, without warning, time cracked. A blinding flash pierced the night. Everything slowed, the faces of the crowd turning to masks of terror, confusion painting the air thick like fog. An explosion erupted from the street just behind Ethan. A shockwave slammed into him, sending him sprawling to the ground. Dust and debris rained down like angry confetti, throwing the world into chaos. "Ethan!" Amina's voice throbbed against the din. A siren call. He scrambled to his feet. Disoriented, the air sank heavy with smoke, and through the veil, he glimpsed a figure twisted in the whirlwind, his mother eyes aglow with an otherworldly shine. "Ethan, listen to me," she cried, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. Behind her, the gunman collapsed, the energy snuffing out of him like a candle. And there, amidst the wreckage, Amina stepped forward, her eyes now glowing with a deep, mesmerizing light. The storm inside her calmed, revealing a power raw and real. Ethan's breath hitched. "Who are you?" he gasped, feeling like he was only just piecing the puzzle together. "I'm not just a wanderer. I'm fighting for something greater." Amina's voice trembled, yet rang with conviction. The air around her crackled, electric. "You need to understand, I'm the key to everything. Every fate intertwined." Jonathan Hale had regained his composure, eyes shifting between Ethan and Amina, desperation morphing into rage. "You're lying! You think you're a hero? You're nothing!" he spat, the venom in his voice fueling the tension. But Amina stood firm. "You want power, don't you? This city thrives on greed. But you can't begin to grasp the truth I hold." Gasps filled the air, shifting from disbelief to fear as the crowd began to comprehend the scene unfolding before them. Was this woman they had dismissed a force far beyond anything they had imagined? Ethan felt his pulse quicken, a new fear lurking in the back of his mind. What truth? But before Amina could respond, a guttural sound roared from the shadows, and the ground beneath them trembled once more. The air split with a roar, the concrete shaking as a crack appeared, splitting the ground. A black tendril shot up from below like a serpent, rising toward Amina, as if drawn to her very essence. "Get back!" Ethan shouted, instinctually moving to shield Amina. But she didn't flinch. Her eyes locked onto the tendril with an intensity that smoldered. "Stay out of this, Ethan," she said sharply, stepping forward. "I can control this." What was happening? The lines between allies and enemies blurred, and the chaos spiraled deeper. Ethan's heart screamed warnings. His mother shouted something, but all he heard was the roar of energy roaring through the night. Then it hit him. If Amina was the origin of this force, what did that mean for them? Who was truly in control? What did it mean for him? Was the danger from Hale or the hidden power within Amina? Ethan's chest tightened. The air was thick with uncertainty and impending doom. As Amina reached out toward the tendril, Ethan felt the world shift once more. Would he stand with her? Or would he fall into the darkness that threatened to consume them all? And just who were they really fighting for? Ethan's heart raced as he stared at Amina, the storm in her eyes echoing the chaos inside him. The words lingered in the air. What had she meant by powers empty without purpose? As he pondered, the city whirred around them, indifferent to their moment. Then, suddenly, a loud crash shattered the evening calm. A car careened down the street, sideswiped a lamppost, and skidded violently to a stop just inches from where they stood. Sirens wailed in the distance. People screamed, scattering like startled pigeons. Amina flinched, instinctively stepping closer to Ethan as adrenaline hammered through him, tightening his throat. The driver stumbled out, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. "Help! Someone!" His voice cracked with panic. The crowd hesitated, stunned, eyes darting back and forth between the driver and the chaos. Ethan moved instinctively, pulling Amina behind him, protectively. Then, a commotion erupted. A group of men surged forward from the shadows. Wento Ra. Their faces were cloaked in darkness, but their intentions glared sharply in the night. "Get back! He belongs to us!" one shouted, his voice soaked in menace. Ethan's breath caught. Who were they? Why did they want the driver? Amina's grip tightened on Ethan's arm, her voice barely a whisper. "They're after him. He knows too much." "What do you mean?" Ethan's mind raced. What could he possibly know? Before Amina could answer, the thugs lunged at the bloody driver, pulling him away as screams filled the air. "Stop!" Ethan shouted. But it felt like shouting into a void. The world narrowed to what was right in front of him, a swirling mess of chaos and looming darkness. Then, as the man was forced back into the alley, he turned, eyes wild and desperate. "Amina, please! They know the truth!" His voice hung in the air, a lifeline thrown into a raging sea. Ethan's heart clenched. What truth? But the gang had him, dragging him away, voices fading into the shadows. The crowd murmured, excitement igniting within them. What had they just witnessed? Gossip ignited like dry kindling around them. Whispers of danger, intrigue, power plays. Amina's eyes filled with fear, pulling Ethan back toward the safety of the streetlights. "We need to go now!" "What truth?" His voice was urgent, demanding. What was he talking about? Before she could answer, the streetlights flickered. A cold breeze whispered through the dark, pricking at Ethan's skin. Then, without warning, Amina gasped, collapsing against him. Her body shook. "They're coming for you, Ethan. They want to use you." Who? Panic surged through him. Amina, breathing heavily, looked up at him, eyes wide and filled with dread. "They know everything about your foundation, why you're really doing this. And they will stop at nothing to exploit it, to exploit us." A shiver ran down his spine. This wasn't just about Amina. It was about him. The decisions he'd made. The darkness he thought he could escape. Was that what those men wanted? To pull him back into a world he thought he could influence for good? The city pulsed with noise around them. But inside, a silence stole over him as he stared into Amina's stormy eyes. A sliver of doubt wormed its way through his heart. What if she wasn't just a homeless woman? What if she knew more than she let on? The fabric of his world began to unravel. The stakes were no longer clear, and as uncertainty clung to him like the night air, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were all players in a game much bigger than he ever imagined. The weight of truth loomed ever closer, and what lay just beyond that truth could shatter everything. "Ethan," Amina's voice trembled, breaking through his thoughts. "We need to leave. Now." But Ethan hesitated, trapped in uncertainty. What if staying meant opening a door to horrors he wasn't ready to face? And what if leaving meant losing Amina, losing everything? The tension crackled between them, the city holding its breath, the night waiting for an answer to the question that hung unanswered in the air. What would they do next? Ethan stood there, hands trembling, as Amina's eyes held his like a tether to reality. The weight of unsaid truths throbbed in the space between them, heavy and electric. Just then, a commotion erupted a few feet away. A group of kids, loud and laughing, kicked a soccer ball into the street, their joy stark against the backdrop of the city's relentless grind. But something shifted. A flicker in Amina's expression, her calm facade cracking like ice. "Ethan, I need to tell you something," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, urgency dancing in his chest. Was it about her secrets? The ones she hinted at, buried deep under layers of hardship? Before she could continue, a shadow descended, a tall figure racing through the crowd, knocking people aside like mere obstacles. Ethan's heart raced. It was Jonathan Hale. He charged toward them, eyes blazing like wildfire, fists clenched at his sides. The air thickened with dread. "Amina!" he shouted. "You thought you could hide from me?" Ethan stepped in front of Amina instinctively, the anger boiling in his veins. "Back off, Hale!" he barked. The world around them fell silent, like a breath held captive. People turned, faces a mix of curiosity and concern. But Jonathan's laughter cut through the tension, like glass shattering. "You think you can protect her? You don't even know what she is." His tone dripped with malice, and Ethan felt the color drain from his face. "What do you mean?" Amina's voice quivered, fear creeping into her words. The truth of her being felt too large to grasp, too heavy to bear. "Enough games," Jonathan snarled. "You're nothing but a pawn in a bigger game. Amina, your bloodline isn't random, it's a weapon, and you know it." Gasps rippled through the gathering crowd. Eyes darted between the three of them, confusion bubbling to the surface. "What are you talking about?" Ethan shouted, his mind racing. Was Amina more than she said? Did her secrets run deeper than he ever imagined? With that, Amina stepped back. A deep breath shuddered from her chest, as if she was wrestling with the very essence of her identity. "I wanted to protect you," she whispered, her voice cracking like fragile glass. "But you need to understand why I've lived on the streets, why I've hidden." Ethan's heart raced faster than ever. The stakes felt impossibly high. What had he been caught up in? He reached for her hand, but she recoiled, eyes darting to Jonathan, who stood grinning wickedly. "You think I don't know your past? How easy it would be to expose you." Jonathan's words sliced through the air, each one heavier than the last. Then, the moment turned sharper still. A sudden scream cut through the throng. A woman fell to the ground, clutching her chest as panic erupted. "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted, but it sounded distant, echoing the chaos. And just like that, everything snapped. Amina looked at Ethan, her face a mixture of fear and longing. "You must choose, Ethan," she said, eyes pleading. "The world needs to know." But before she could finish, Jonathan lunged forward. A blinding flash, like a lightning strike, a loud crack, everything shattered. Amina screamed. Ethan's heart dropped. What just happened? Who or what was Amina? The truth hung in the air, a heavy weight that threatened to crush them all. And the crowd held its breath, waiting for the next shocking moment to unfold. Ethan's hands trembled, the weight of the night pressing down like a storm. Amina's presence flickered around him, alive and electric, but shadows lurked. Cold and hungry. What secret did she carry? The city pulsed with unanswered questions, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the answers were closer than he knew. Then, out of nowhere, a scream sliced through the air, sharp and frantic. Ethan whipped around, his heart pounding. A crowd had gathered, their faces twisted in horror. A figure lay crumpled on the ground. Jonathan Hale. He was sprawled there, lifeless, a gnarled hand clutching his chest. The very man Ethan had feared, now a victim of his own ruthless ambition. Gasps erupted, confusion spreading like wildfire. What happened? Why's he? Ethan felt a chill creep over him. He didn't like Hale one bit, but to see him lifeless was another thing altogether. The world around him blurred, thoughts colliding. Amina grabbed his arm, her grip steely. "Something's not right," she breathed, her voice unnaturally calm against the chaos. A police siren wailed in the distance, drawing closer. People stepped back as chaos transformed into disorder. Ethan's pulse raced. He knew Hale wasn't just a businessman. He was a shark in a suit, entangled in deals darker than anyone dared to mention. He couldn't shake the weight of dread settling in his stomach. But then, Amina stepped forward, her eyes narrowing at the scene. "I know what this is," she whispered. He wasn't just a victim. He was a target. Ethan's heart raced. What did she mean? Amina's gaze was unwavering, searching for something. "Just look," she said, pointing towards the alley, her voice steady despite the turmoil. A small figure, cloaked in shadows, slipped away. "Hey!" Ethan shouted, instinctively moving to chase, but Amina held him back. "Don't." "Why not? Someone's running." "They're not the issue. The truth is..." Ethan's confusion transformed into anger. "What truth? What do you know?" Amina stood before him now, a tempest of emotion swirling. "I've seen it, Ethan. The secret Hale held. It goes beyond greed. It's about to unravel everything here." Siren lights flashed, illuminating the scene in garish colors. People murmured, eyes darting between Hale's body and the shadows lurking just out of sight. Ethan felt the crowd close in, waiting, wondering. Then, a badge glinted in the light as an officer moved towards them, eyes keen, surveying the gathering. "Step back, all of you!" The officer barked, but Ethan couldn't look away from Amina. "Tell me what you know," he demanded, barely able to keep himself steady. Amina's eyes darkened, a storm brewing within them. "It's connected to me, Ethan, to my past, and to Hale." The words held weight, pressing against the air, thick with tension. The officer gestured for them to disperse, but the crowd held tight, bound by unanswered questions. Amina took a step back, her presence suddenly distant, shadowed by the looming chaos. "If they discover, if they know who I really am, it won't just be Hale that's at risk. It's bigger. It's all of us." An electric silence fell. The crowd watched, hushed and on edge. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him, the foundation of everything he believed teetering on the edge of collapse. "What do you mean?" he urged, desperation leaking into his voice. But before she could answer, A loud crash erupted nearby. A window shattering, screams rising, followed by chaos, bodies scattering, urgency flooding the streets. As the smoke settled, Ethan turned back to Amina, heart racing. She had secrets that could change everything. And now, with Hale's death stirring the pot, time was running out. Could he trust her? Or would her truth destroy him? The night loomed heavy, shadows crawling, and with a single glance, they both knew nothing would be the same again. Ethan stood there, hands trembling, as Amina's eyes held his like a tether to reality. The weight of unsaid truths throbbed in the space between them, heavy and electric. Just then, a loud crash erupted nearby. Glass shattered, screams rose, chaos unfurling in waves. A city that had seemed so familiar now felt foreign, fraught with danger. Pressure built around him, thick and suffocating. Jonathan Hale lay sprawled on the ground, lifeless. But the real threat wasn't just the fallen man. It was what lay behind them. A figure appeared, moving through the crowd like a storm, slipping in and out of view. The tension morphed into an unrelenting anxiety. "Ethan!" Amina's voice broke through the haze of commotion, urgency stitching them closer. "We need to go! They're coming!" "What do you mean?" But before she could respond, that figure emerged fully. A woman with striking features and eyes that glimmered with an unsettling knowledge. She climbed over the debris, her presence commanding, and paused, taking in the scene. Everyone fell silent, drawn to her. "It's starting," she murmured, as if speaking directly to him. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. "Who are you?" The woman turned her gaze toward him, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. "You don't know yet, do you?" she said, voice smooth like silk, but edged with danger. "You're at the center of something much darker." Ethan's breath hitched. "What are you talking about?" Before she could respond, Amina gasped, eyes widening with an unmistakable fear. "No, it can't be." "What can be?" A wave of confusion rolled through the crowd as whispers started anew, eyes darting back and forth. The woman stepped closer, an aura of urgency surrounding her. "Ethan, you are not who you think you are. Not just some millionaire with a charitable heart." Her finger pointed sharply at him, slicing through the tension. "You've been living a lie." His heart raced as the words crashed over him. "What do you mean? This doesn't make sense," the woman continued, her voice low and piercing. "Did the cloth rise from within? Did not we know what this simple thing is? Not else." There was some doubt, some secret. This figure turned tails on him quickly, coupling a misery and distracting his behavior. "Your mother didn't just leave you. She hid you. She hid your existence from Hale and others who sought power through blood. You're the key to everything." Amina's breath caught, shock coloring her features. "You're the one they feared, the one they want." Ethan felt the ground shift under him, reality spinning like a top. He wanted to deny it, to move away from the truth clawing at him. But deep down, something flickered. He could feel it, the weight of secrets unearthing. Your mother, she was not just running from Hale, but something far worse. the woman said, stepping forward, closing the gap. You have abilities, unseen forces, that will attract every predator in this city. Panic surged through him. Abilities? What did she mean? And then he spotted Hale's body, a reminder of how quickly everything could change. Why would you tell me this now? He yelled, desperation dripping from his words. Because time is running out! Before he could grasp the implications, the tension erupted into chaos again. A loud thud resonated as the ground shook beneath them. Ethan's body froze, a chilling realization dawning. Something cracked in the distance. A rumble echoing. Is it possible? His pulse raced. The raw power Amina held, the truth he'd uncover about himself, could mean disaster, but also freedom. And just like that, it hit him. Everything he knew was unspooling, relationships blurring, identities shifting. Amina wasn't just a homeless woman. She was intertwined in this web of destiny. His mother's disappearance, Hale's obsession, the dangers lurking in shadows, they all added up. As he grasped for the truth, the world around him erupted into chaos once more. And he couldn't help but wonder, was he ready to confront what was buried within him? Or would he become just another pawn in a game he didn't even understand? The weight of the unknown loomed, just as uncertainties reignited. The woman's eyes glimmered, something unspoken lurking just beyond reach. Suddenly, a blaring siren pierced the air, shaking him from his thoughts. Shadows loomed, and the crowd stirred again, but the woman focused only on him. You need to know the truth before they get to you, she insisted, her voice urgent yet terrified. Then, with a jolt, a loud bang erupted, an explosion from behind, sending debris and dirt flying. A shriek cut through the air, echoing the panic that had taken hold. Ethan's heart dropped. The rumbling ground seemed ready to swallow them whole. Amina! He called, but the sound was lost in the chaos. Amidst the flickering lights, he spotted her, stumbling backward, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Ethan! Her voice trembled as she backed away from the shadows creeping over the alley. Before he could reach her, a figure emerged from the smoke, a man cloaked in darkness. The crowd gasped, and time felt like it froze. It was the driver from earlier, the one who had crashed. He seemed different now, eyes wild with something foreign, something primal. Get back, he shouted, his voice heavy with urgency. Why? Ethan shouted, but the man charged toward him, eyes glinting crazily. You don't know what you're part of. Then, with a sudden, violent motion, he raised the hand, and Ethan felt something crackle in the air. A pulse, a surge of energy so intense, it made his skin prickle. But before Ethan could react, the world burst apart. The man unleashed a shocking wave of force, slamming into Ethan like a freight train, lifting him off his feet. He flew backward, pain spiraling through his body as he crashed into the cold pavement, gasping for breath. Amina screamed, "Ethan!" The crowd faltered, some dropping to their knees as the shockwave swelled, pushing against them. The lights flickered around them, shadows dancing as the air filled with chaos. Then it happened. A brilliant light erupted from Amina, illuminating her figure like a beacon. "No!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the noise. Ethan, struggling to rise, squinted at the sight before him. In that moment of blinding light, the unexpected twist hit him, the revelation crashing in like thunder. Amina wasn't just a homeless woman caught in a tangle of fate. She was more. The truth slowly bared itself, jagged and raw. "Amina," he croaked, "what are you?" But Amina's glow brightened, almost consuming her. "Ethan, I didn't want to show you. I thought I could protect you." Before he could fully grasp her words, the light burst forth, enveloping everything. The shadows retreated, and the man who had rushed them fell back, terrified, as if struck by a blow. Then, silence. Numbness swept through the crowd. Eyes widened in disbelief, mouths agape. Amina stood at the epicenter of it all, trembling yet fierce. Her aura a stark contrast to the darkness surrounding Hale just moments before. Ethan staggered to his feet, the air thick with unspoken tension. The realization sank in like a heavy weight in his chest. He didn't know who Amina was anymore. And suddenly, everything he believed, the woman he had tried to save, was entangled in something far beyond him. A connection so deep, so shocking, transforming everything he thought he understood into mere whispers. Then he caught her eyes, fear and determination ghosting her features. The truth was no longer a secret, but it came at a cost. What would happen next? The weight of uncertainty hung thunderously in the air, and all he could do was gasp, "Amina." But the response was simply silence, thick and pregnant with meaning. And before he could grasp the magnitude of her powers, or what it meant for both, Ethan felt the world crack under his feet. Amina's light pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing energy from the chaos surrounding them. He stood frozen, the shadows dancing around him, and the bitter truth flooding his mind. Amina was powerful, more than he could ever understand, yet just as human as he was. "Ethan," she called, her voice slicing through the turmoil. "We have to do this together." The realization hit him hard. This wasn't just about survival. It was about facing the monsters lurking in the dark and confronting the truth that bound them. There was a chance to reclaim the power each of them had stashed in their hearts. "No! We can't!" a voice shrieked from the crowd. The shadowed figure, the crashed survivor, pushed to his feet, eyes wild with fear and anger. "You don't know what you're unleashing!" Then, out of nowhere, a chill rushed through the air, cutting deeper than the shockwave before. A sleek black car screeched to a halt nearby. A figure stepped out, draped in an expensive coat that hugged an aura of wealth. The crowd gasped. Jonathan Hale's associate, the one who had always remained hidden, was now here. "Stop this nonsense," he shouted, eyes darting between Ethan and Amina. "You don't realize the gravity of this. You're meddling with powers you cannot comprehend." The air thickened, the thrumming energy around Amina reverberating like a living thing, eager to be unleashed. "Stay back," Ethan shouted, stepping closer to Amina, ready to shield her from what was to come. "You think you can control this? There's no power in manipulation." "You're wrong," Hale's associate stormed closer, eyes cold as ice. "You have no idea how deep this goes. You think you can walk away?" Ethan felt the pressure build, the city around him a crumbling facade. "We'll uncover it together," he said, his heart pounding in unison with the chaos. "Amina," he called, turning towards her. "We need to embrace this. Let it in." Eyes shimmering, Amina nodded, her light flickering between hope and fear. Together, she murmured, voice firm like shattered glass. The moment held, suspended in time, as lights flickered against the darkness. And as they reached for one another, a surge of energy soared through them, banishing shadows like a rising dawn. Without warning, the air erupted, enveloping them in light so bright it stung. Ethan could feel it, the truth coursing through his veins, all the secrets, all the fear starting to unravel. The shadows retreated their grasp, and in that instant, he felt free. But then, like a heartbeat, the light pulsated ominously. Amina's energy throbbed with clarity and purpose. She was becoming something extraordinary. Yet they needed to act now. "Ethan!" Amina cried, her voice a beacon. "This is it! The ending we both need!" But just as quickly, the world shifted once more. Darkness surged against them, seeping back into reality, a reminder that not all battles were meant to be won. The associate snarled. A desperate grasp for control, a final attempt to snuff out their light. Ethan's heart raced, fear threading its way into hope. "You will not control us." Then, with a glorious explosion of energy, Amina pushed forward. The crowd gasped, but Ethan understood. The line between light and dark was thin. The chaos amplified, they embraced their transformation. A partnership of power forged in crisis. Together, they would turn the tide. The light burst forth, swallowing the shadows, illuminating everything. And then silence. Amidst the aftermath of tension, Ethan looked at Amina. The glow faded, but held a promise. "This is far from over," Amina said quietly, eyes holding a blend of everything they had been through. Ethan nodded, emotions swirling in his chest like a storm. Their lives had forever changed. The city may have settled, but they understood something crucial now. Power wasn't just an exterior force. It was a shared connection. "Let's find the truth together," he promised, a vow against the uncertainty that still lingered. And as they stepped into the early dawn, the city felt alive again, buzzing with possibility. Ethan felt it, the urgency to grasp onto this moment. But that wasn't all. You have to subscribe now. Don't miss the exclusive stories coming your way. Hit that button immediately. Smash the like button now to help us with the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this ending. What do you think happens next? Don't wait even a second longer to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Your support matters now more than ever for our amazing journey ahead.